Marlena? Girl, where you going? I'm moving. Keep watching.
The Rundown is brought to you by Commonwealth Brewery Limited. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the show. It's great to have all of you with us again tonight. Well, we're down now to the wire in the mid-year budget debate following 2 full days of contribution. Wrapping things up later this evening, the Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, the Honorable Philip Davis, before the mid-year budget heads on to the Senate. Now, that's expected to take place on Monday for the Senate. Earlier today, though, we heard the Minister of Health making a bold prognosis about the nation's healthcare system. Here's Corval Pyfrom, who reports on why the Davis administration feels its upcoming legislation will give a shot in the arm to a whole lot of struggling Bahamians.
Our administration is heading in the right direction, implementing a more robust universal primary health care coverage.
The health minister came to this mid-year budget debate fully aware of critics' attacks at this administration's spending and swirling questions about the overall state of the public health care system. So, Dr. Michael Darville's remedy to silence detractors was to talk up what he calls the government's powerful social-economic public health initiative, including fully transitioning to universal primary health care coverage. Legislation, he says, is on the way to create a national health insurance authority.
As it stands, the NIB chronic drug prescription plan, now managed by my ministry and currently providing free drugs for chronic non-communicable diseases for just over 44,000 Bahamians, mainly governed by healthcare workers and their families.
This figure, the minister says, will eventually more than double as coverage is extended to more NHI members.
The 160,000 plus registered NHI members who suffer from chronic non-communicable diseases like hypertension, diabetes, heart disease, certain types of cancers, renal insufficiency, mental illness, and other illnesses will finally have access to life-changing medications free of charge.
His ministry, Dr. Darville contends, is no longer managing systems, but rather leading a movement.
Free medications for chronic non-communicable diseases for patients with NHI across the country in both the public and private sector.
Completing this powerful initiative, as he refers to it, Dr. Darville says, is the 50% reduction on VAT on food items set to take effect next month. And finally, for patients suffering from chronic non-communicable diseases, the health minister announced that they will soon have access to healthier and affordable choices at food stores. For the Bahamas Tonight, I'm Corval Pyfrom.
Well, now we're talking. Remember, several weeks ago, we talked about this on this show, is that we're talking about we want a healthier society, a healthier country. We want our people to be able to fight against non-communicable diseases. But how do you do that when it's so expensive? How do you do it when everything that costs that's healthy is so expensive? And so now you see the Ministry of Health and Wellness is beginning now to respond to it, to answer these calls, and to be able to put in place programs that will drive the cost of eating healthy down. It is more affordable, I've said over repeatedly, it is more affordable to eat garbage and last longer, but have a full belly, than it takes to go and buy healthy stuff and it lasts you one meal. So the reality that this is now being addressed is a great thing. That's a good thing. So the government can be successful in implementing affordable wellness, then we'll have definitely a healthier society. Now, secondly, the initiatives that he's talking about with free medication, if this can be implemented, it will be revolutionary for the administration. Why? Because too many people are dying. Too many people, after being diagnosed, are becoming worse physically simply because they cannot afford the treatment and they cannot afford the medicine. Any administration that pumps money and focus into programs that will allow people to live healthier and live longer will always get thumbs up from the people. Why? Because people cannot afford insurance. And therefore, if you can't afford insurance, how are you going to pay for treatment for the illness? How are you going to get better? How are you going to recover? It's almost a death sentence in our country because people can't afford to treat their illness. And so national health insurance isn't a luxury, it's a priority and a necessity. And to see now that Dr. Darvill is saying they're going to now roll out this next phase of the program where people can have access to medicine free of charge and can get health care free of charge is a good thing. To argue against it is just simply foolishness, because people are dying in this country because they cannot afford expense. You try to buy medicine? Persons who are diagnosed with cancer, you try to pay for the treatments? Do you know how expensive those are? And if you don't have insurance in this country, do you know how that feels? It's almost a death sentence. So these are priority programs that should get the support of all and sundry on all sides because it's saving lives. Let's not politicize it. It's saving lives. Well, see, one group had nothing, the other had everything. Former Prime Minister Dr. Midyear using this as a basis to publicly scold the governing Progressive Liberal Party's handling of the local economy. And this, he says, despite assuming office at a time when more than 100,000 people have been vaccinated against COVID-19 and more hospital beds and PPEs were available. The claim definitely pulling a matter-of-fact response from the health minister. Take a look how it went down.
Under the PLP with all the medication, 1,504 cases of COVID per month with medication and all the knowledge. Under the FNM with nothing, 1,178 cases per month.
The member of Kalani is obviously fantasizing. Fantasizing based on his warped statistical analysis. The reality is, under his watch, very few people were tested. You didn't even have the PPEs and the kits to do the testing you needed.
All right, the war of the words continue. That's what budgets do. Budgets pull out the best and the worst of them in scenarios. And sometimes people forget about their time in office and the struggles they faced and why people, you know, there's this argument going on right now that Dr. Minnis has, and he's been supported. We heard it last night on this show from Bramble McCartney, actually night before last, from Bramble McCartney, who said, listen, he was dealt a bad blow, bad hand. He had to deal with COVID-19, the epidemic, the pandemic, the world pandemic. Then he had to deal with Hurricane Dorian. And so based on these factors, he was not given a fair opportunity to lead the country, and that's why he should be given the opportunity again to lead the country. And reality is, well, this is not musical chairs, neither is Monopoly. It's not about fairness as to who gets a good period, who doesn't get a good period. When you run for office, and that means you take the risk of whatever happens during that tenure in office. You've got to fight to be the best that you can be during that time. It's not a matter of, can I have a do-over because I had an unfair period? It doesn't work that way. Leadership, listen, everything rises and falls on leadership. And what we say about leadership, it's like a tea bag. When you put it in hot water, it ought to get stronger, not weaker. It ought to not be an excuse. It ought to be the reason why you show your strength and good governance. Now, let's be honest. Let's be honest, and a lot of you are not going to like this. There had to have been some level of good governance because our country was able to get through the pandemic. We were able to get through Dorian, so there had to have been some good leadership somewhere in there. And I think we ought to give fairness where fairness is. We would not be able to come over on the other side and cross over to getting our country back on its feet had it not been in hands that could get us through. Now, we could all question whether there were a lot of mistakes, whether there was bad judgment calls, and nobody liked to see the lockdowns, but the reality is, and somebody said it, and I agree with that statement, you're alive. So maybe the lockdowns kept you alive. Because if we didn't have the lockdowns, then many more people would have been dead. And so I think fairness is where it ought to be. We ought to give thanks where we can give thanks, because as hard as those decisions were, it saved a lot of our lives. And so at the end of the day, I think we ought to always bear in mind the truth factor and not just get emotional and talk about things just for talking about its sake. I always say all administrations have done good because we've advanced as a nation. We've advanced continuously, all right? And we also give credit to where credit is due in that regard. Well, we can also tell you tonight that what could be a tariff war between some of the world's largest economies leaving the government rather concerned. Economic Affairs Minister, Senator the Honorable Michael Alcides, revealing as much today at this week's Office of the Prime Minister's briefing. The impending war stemming from tariffs imposed by United States President Donald Trump on China, Mexico, and Canada. Now, economists are now watching the latest developments as they hinted the war could very well lead, oh Lord, we don't want to hear these words, to a global recession. Take a listen.
It's a serious matter, you know, because we've seen the some tariffs were supposed to come in yesterday, I think, and then there was some representations made, according to the reports, by some of the major U.S. auto manufacturers who made some representation, and then we saw a 30-day sort of grace period, I'd use that word, or suspension for 30 days. You know, even though that is done, there's still the uncertainty as to what will happen, you know, at the conclusion of the 30 days. And so, you know, uncertainty is never good for economies and people who are responsible for planning.
Now, Minister Alcides affirms the Davis administration stands ready to assist Bahamians in what could be a difficult fiscal period and reassures them the work has already begun.
We have a trade war with the EU and China and the US, and how does that affect global economic output, and then how does that trickle down to us? So that's something we just keep an eye on. And one of the ways, I mean, we watch it, but one of the ways we can begin to sort of insulate or protect ourselves is things like increased agricultural production, things like sourcing new markets, opening up new trade routes, and things like making sure that from a financial perspective, you know, our financial house is in order.
There you go. So that's smart, right? If you recognize something is coming your way, then you ought to put some things in place to cushion and to be able to buffer any risk and try to mitigate the risk before they come for your people. That's important. You know, there was a discussion, an opposition member in the House tonight who spoke about the fact that this administration has taxed more than anybody else has taxed before. And in fact, they've collected $500 million more off of you than the previous administration. And I wondered how much of a research he did, because the reality is VAT is not only collected from residents, it's collected from foreigners, it's collected from foreign investments, it's collected from tourism. So it's not only Bahamians paying it. So when you think $500 million more, that's not only on the backs of Bahamians. That's revenue coming in from people who have to pay for services, who are outside of the country, who are foreigners in the country. And so the increase doesn't represent necessarily new taxes on the backs of the Bahamian. It represents the fact that there's actual collection. You're plugging the leakage before that we've seen that people were getting away from paying their taxes. You're now collecting it. We're now collecting it. We're now getting more people, foreigners especially, to pay their share. They weren't paying it before. So that increase, Mr. Member of Parliament for St. Anne's, doesn't represent Bahamians paying more. It represents better collection. It represents persons all over. Tourism, foreigners as well, contributing to what they're paying. They're now paying VAT as well. And so that should be a good thing that's celebrated, because that's revenue that's increasing, not necessarily in the box of Bahamians, because Bahamians will question whether or not it's better now than it was maybe years ago. And it's not about a government. It's about whether the system is better now. The system is working and they have a little more spend in their pocket. That's how you judge it. Well, I've seen a lot of you in social media this evening talking about it, so why not? The reality is the skies were on fire this afternoon, even in the cold night. Thank you, Tanya, for that. If you saw what appeared to be a meteor shower tonight, it was actually debris from a failed SpaceX Starship Flight 8 launched from Texas. You know, all of you sharing your videos on social media. We have it here on the screen. Y'all were wondering what was going on there. Y'all thought it was going to be the rapture. You better get your soul right. But it wasn't. It was actually something going on with that SpaceX launch in Texas. Residents in Florida and around the region, like here, saw the golden streaks floating in the sky about an hour ago. Now, according to international reports, the main rocket lost altitude control and contact with Starship, and then it exploded. bam. The FAA has halted flights into Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Palm Beach as a result. So that's what's going on there. So you don't have to, those of you who lock up in the room and under the bed thinking something going on, you come out, okay? It's which I just explained to you. That's what happens. And y'all don't come up with no conspiracy theory about now we launched SpaceX and that could happen to us. And just relax, all right? It happens. That is what it is. Now, we're going to a break. And when we come back, we're gonna have all kind of Bahamian vernacular coming out tonight. We have a cabinet minister here to talk about some milestone achievements, some things that's going on, focus on women's rights. We're going to talk about celebrating women, and then a little later we have some other guests. It's going to be a good night tonight. My guest tonight is the Minister of State for Housing, the Honorable Lisa Rabning. Yeah, she's here. We're going to have a great discussion right after the break. You're watching The Rundown here on the ZNS Network. We're back after this. Stay close.
Good morning and welcome. I'm Dr. Gale, and I'm inviting you to be a part of a journey where we open the Word of God to receive strength, to receive empowerment from the Scriptures as they have been written. Get your Bibles, get your cup of coffee or your tea, because this journey is gonna be great. This is your day of victory.
Bahamas Striping Group of Companies, we have been in Exuma now for the past 4 years, carrying out our paving program. A part of our company's philosophy is to do some work to international standards. So when you look at our paving division, we have a state-of-the-art lab to do all of our testing in-house, as well as a state-of-the-art asphalt plant with a trained technician carrying out the work on that site. The overarching goal of our company is to produce the work that we're doing in the entire Bahamas to international standards. We also make a difference by the training of our staff. We have a very intensive training program going on to where we are teaching young men how to learn the art of striping. Being a young man myself, I've made mistakes in the past. I was given a second chance to better my life, and it's only fitting that we pass that along. What's important for us is giving them a second chance for them to get a skill and a career that can take them further in life.
It's a joy, to help someone who is in need,
I'm proud to know that we are able to accommodate them with a hot meal, fresh meal, and a well-balanced meal.
A lot of our clients, as you know, it's in the inner city and persons who really include and so much at the loss they go. And for whatever reason, 2 months, 3 months, they really don't have anything. You have to have some kind of kindness to do this.
Welcome back to The Rundown. It's great to see all of you with us. I'm looking and seeing some of you in the Lion's Den online. Welcome. And of those watching by YouTube, whether you're watching from the Turks and Caicos Islands internationally, welcome to the Bahamas and welcome to The Rundown. And then those of you here in the Bahamas watching on your various networks and choices, good to have you with us. Well, this Saturday marks International Women's Day. The milestone is considered as a focal point in the women's rights movement. International Women's Day emphasizes issues such as gender equality, reproductive rights, and violence and abuse against women. One of the country's female politicians and cabinet minister encouraging all Bahamian women to celebrate International Women's Day. The Member of Parliament from Marathon and Minister of State for Housing and Urban Renewal, the Honorable Lisa Rabning, joins us tonight to discuss several matters, including International Women's Day. Minister, good evening. Great to have you here in The Rundown.
Good evening, and it's great to be here.
We focus so much on women who are doing great, women who are successful, women who just look the part, and you sit there and say, oh, I ought to be like them.
Yes.
But interesting, before we started this segment, you said to me, I don't want to talk about them tonight. And I agree, because they're going to always get their coverage, they can always get their flowers and get their success. But there is a group you want to talk about. Tell me about it.
Well, Clint, today I would have visited the female correctional facility.
Wow.
Well, for the normal Bahamians who don't know, may not know what that is, I went to the females' prison
We got
today.
some video right here. You having lunch with them. There you go.
Yeah, that was so touching. And that was the first time I would have visited that facility. My heart felt so heavy, I had to hold back and not cry. Why? Because I can't believe that we talk about equality among women, and we talk about how much we love women, we want to see them excel, but I have never went to the female prison.
Wow.
And when I went there, I was so excited to cater. They had catered food today, so we had a good time and we had a good talk. And I see them as the forgotten women. Now, most of them said that yes, their families, you know, check up on them, and some no, and then some, their kids. And so they started to talk to me about equality. I was like, okay. And they say, please, don't just go and we don't see you again. And they said, we like talking to you. You know, I had a good talk with them that I didn't grow up with a silver spoon. How I came up, I could have made some choices. But there was someone who believed in me.
Right.
And who helped steer me into the right direction. And so I'm telling them, even though life has thrown you a hard ball, remember, it's because of a decision that you made. And so with every action, there's a reaction. But what do you do in a situation when your freedom is taken from you? You have to sit down and think, pray, and think of how and when you come out, you're going to be a better citizen.
So instead of focusing on the present circumstances, focus on the next.
On the next. So they was happy to hear me say that. So what they're asking me is, help us with the next. Some are coming out in May, some are coming out in June, some coming out in October. And so I told them, and that's like a commitment that I make, I'm going to adopt the female center.
You were that moved?
Yes,
by talking
personally,
to them.
yes. So week after next, I'll be back there with some packages, and then they challenged me. They said, we know, don't just give us the packages and don't come back, please. It seems like you understand, we can talk to you. But no, I'm gonna make a commitment, at least once a month. I'll go and sit there for hours to talk with them. Because some of the concerns, I would have to talk to the Minister of National Security first on some of the things that they said. Nothing detrimental, just as it relates to equality. And I think it's okay for me to just say one of them. Most of them mentioned parole. They said that in the male prison, the males get to go on parole even though they have time, a lot of time left. But they are restricted. They feel restricted to 2 years or less, then you go on parole.
Really?
And then some also mentioned that they want an opportunity to go on the work scheme. That was so
They don't
nice.
go on work schemes, do they?
Well, according to them, they said some are waiting and they never went. So, and I think that that's a good idea too for urban renewal, since it's such a social program, could be able to put something together. But of course, I'll speak with Mr. Algernon Allen and the team and Mr. Dean, those to see if we could put something together. And they talk so much about second chance. Can you believe they're there? And they thinking, am I going to be given a second chance? And, you know, I told them that this government is about second chances. And so, yeah, we have to do something.
Why do you
for them.
think you were so able to relate to them? And they you know, because sometimes people are so apprehensive, they don't open up, especially when they see national leaders come. Why do you think there was that comfort level to relate to you?
First of all, when I saw the seating of the eating area, I was like, I have to sit up there? No, I want to sit down there with them. I guess they was like, what? So I sat with them, you know, we started talking, and they started telling me everything, and they was just, you know, and I told them I'm a mother, you know, and I grew up in, not in all those top circumstances. I had challenges. I had a mom who couldn't take care of me. I went through that. And so I had a father that I had challenges with, but hey, I'm here because somebody believed in me. And that was my uncle's ex-wife. At the time, that was his wife. She really, really helped to pull me up.
What advice do you give to women, particularly in this society? Society can be so cruel. And sometimes you try to give your best effort, and people try to deter that by throwing sour grapes on it or lying or defaming. What do you say to people who perhaps have given up and said, you know what, it didn't make no sense. No matter how much I try, people never see the good in it. What do you say to them as far as lifting people in our society that feel as though their best efforts are going unnoticed?
You cannot listen to that. Clint, I would use myself as an example. Well, you know that they like, not only just the males, the females, they talk very bad about politicians.
Yes.
So we're not exempted. And they curse you out, they call you all kind of names, like you wake up and wonder, they was meaning me?
Right.
You know, so my family would just laugh, you know? And so sometimes it's even the people that you do the most for, those that you pull up. And they're the ones that sometimes just forget what you've done, and for whatever reason they're angry for, and they're just bitter with you. But I cannot allow 1, 2, 3, 4 people, or even more, stop me from doing the assignment that God has given me. And so what you do, you don't hurt them by just giving up and not helping anybody else. You hurt yourself, because you know what, in yourself, that's not your nature. That's not your character. Your reputation changes, but your character is who you are. And I'm a person, I love to help, and I know the Lord has called me to those who are downtrodden, to the homeless, to those who are looking for help, those who are looking for hope, because I was in that situation. And so I'm not going to give up. I don't care what they say until the Lord say it's over.
You have been working not only on the national level, but in your communities. And you have a program in your community to actually reward people in the Marathon constituency for the contributions they've made. Talk about this program and why this was so important for you to have.
The program is called Marathon 100. My heart was so touched by this program, and the residents who are going to be the recipients of it, they are excited. Some are still receiving their letters to say they're going to be awarded. So it was placed in 10 categories. And I looked in the community and I said, not everybody will get a national award. Not everybody will get a King's Award. Some people may never walk at Government House to be awarded or recognized, but there are some unsung heroes. Those who have done a lot in the community, but people on the outside would not have seen it, and some people on the inside see it and just say, oh, good job. Everybody wants someone to tell them, well done. And so what I have done, and my team and I, we came up with the Marathon 100. And so we even have about 2 teenagers, 15 years old, getting it. Why? Through sports. So we have sports, legacy, politics, advocacy, public relations, public service. It's a lot. Community service, and it's not political.
I was just going to ask you, do you have to be a PLP to get a reward?
No, sir. On that listing is F&Ms. On that listing is F&Ms. And I can tell you, particularly, and I won't call his name because he wouldn't want me to call his name on the rundown. He knew me way before politics. We're on 2 different sides. However, he does so much. He lives in Marathon, but before I even got into politics, he did a lot for that community. Back to school, Easter, but he ran in a different area. So that's good. So we still be friends. Yeah, but he's a good guy. And so there are some persons who should be given their flowers while they're alive. We need to stop telling people how much we love them in these death tributes. Tell me how much you love me today. Tell me how much you think that I'm doing such a good job. Maybe I'll live a little bit longer.
You've been working as a cabinet minister. You had first your portfolio in social services and urban renewal, and now in housing and urban renewal. How has that process been for you?
Well, the process has been somewhat, it's different. Housing is different from when it was with social services. But why I like it is because I get to work with the most exciting minister, the Honorable Keith Bell. You know, the work never stops. He don't sit down. He don't get bored. He always has something. We got to do this. We got to do that. And you know, the Bible talks about iron sharpening iron. And I think that the Prime Minister, in his infinite wisdom, he allowed the Lord to use him to connect us together to get this work done. And urban renewal on itself is social service to me.
Yes.
I call it a social program. We deal with health, we deal with senior citizens, we deal with children, we deal with back to school, we deal with housing, we deal with roof repairs, every facet of society, urban renewal touch. So I didn't get to miss social service. I'm still in social service even though I'm out. And then housing is an addition to it. We see persons come from all walks of life wanting a home. And so, you know, and it's so touching too, sometimes when they can't qualify for it because of different things, you know, a lot of consumer loans or their jobs don't pay enough.
Right.
And so I was excited when our Prime Minister mandated that we move in a more affordable way. And how is that? Rent to own. And so you don't have to be qualified to a bank to rent to own.
Right.
Not today. You don't have to be qualified at housing to rent to own. Not today. And so we give you that opportunity, you rent to own, and when you reach at certain years, then you have that opportunity to go and borrow to pay it off.
Do you know which community you're going to launch it in first?
Yes, we're going to launch it in Salinan Pillen Estates. So that's in Seabreeze. So Her Excellency, Leslie Miller Bryce. So we're doing it, the minister decided to do it a bit different. So instead of him giving the address, she'll give the address.
Wow.
That's her people. We'll be there, but that's her residence. And so we're excited. We are excited because this is the first time in the history of the Bahamas that people are actually going to rent to own. We talk about it so much. We wondered when it was coming. Now it's here.
Wow.
Everybody's welcome to come. So it's March 21st.
That's excellent. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Housing has been a challenge in the country. People have been complaining that they can't find housing, and the rent is so high. There is an enormous demand. How are you addressing such a great demand for housing in this country?
We've done so much applications. I don't know if I have the qualification to say we should stop, but we don't want to give people false hope by taking all of these applications. Why? It takes time for the houses to build, and then they can get frustrated. Then they feel like you turn them off or you lied to them, and so we have a lot of applications. But we want the Bahamian people to know that it takes time. It takes time to build. You have infrastructure you have to put in, and so we're doing our best. So we're also doing in San Salvador.
San Salvador.
The end of the month, this rent to own will be launched in San Salvador. So those places are billing right now. They're very beautiful, by the way. And so our team is there now, and we're expected to go in the morning. And in June, we will be Abaco. So we're having our open house in Abaco. So I know the residents there are very excited about what's going to happen. But what I can say, Clint, you know that we have rental units, government rental units. And so the minister's been working, I mean, rough behind that. So you'll soon see a new facelift of the government rental units. So beautiful, the windows, the doors, everything changing. And so, of course, you know, we have persons who are in there for years. So we, you know, we're being nice to them. We're not throwing anybody out on the streets. We can't do that. Oh, that won't be nice. And so we've also decided to reserve 2 of the government rental units to keep them open always. If somebody knocks on our door, and they usually do through urban renewal, I have nowhere to live. I live on the street. I'm staying on the beach, because social service can only do so much. And there's only enough living accommodation. So we have 2 that we leave empty. So we'll be putting people in them, and persons whose roof need to repair, badly damaged. Where do they go? We take them in our rental place. You wait until it's finished, and then go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we got a plan.
Before we close, I have to let you talk a little more about Marathon. You talked about the initiative in Marathon. What else is happening in Marathon constituency?
Listen, everything is happening in Marathon. And so I was pleased to announce today that 2 of the streets, major streets in our area, was paved. One that I grew up on, I gave a disclaimer in the House of Assembly, not because I lived there, but my family still lives there, that road was paved. That's not the first road. I did many others, but that particular one, I would have never lived that road down if that did not pave before election.
Of course.
And so That's Glendale Subdivision and Bowes Cove. Bowes Cove is a nice, close-knit community off Burnett Road. And during the campaign, those residents asked for one thing. They say, from we lived here, the road was never paved. I said, what? 30-something years. Now the road is paved. I feel good.
Wow.
You know, so much thanks to the Honorable Clay Sweeting, his team, and Mr. Ryan Ramming. They're tired of me nagging. So the nag has to continue because I'm not finished yet.
I was about to ask you, because a lot of people now are getting busy because elections are in sight. Are you just getting started, or have you always been on the ground on marathon?
Always been on the ground. Always, Clint. Always from day one. And so what did I do to keep the momentum going? I always used occasions to stay in contact with the residents. So Mother's Day, my team and I, we go door to door. We give out every Mother's Day a gift for every mother. If a house of 3 mothers, 3 gifts. And if a house of 4 mothers, 4 gifts. Father's Day, door to door, back to school, whether you believe it or not. And I saw some persons who at first was like, are you crazy? You going door to door with back to school stuff? You're not gonna do it on the park? No. I have to do what works for me. Every community is different.
Right.
And so for me, we had backpacks with books, geometry set, pencil. I had uniforms.
Wow.
I had underclothes for the primary school kids and girls. I had socks, everything. We went door to door and distribute them. And so they cannot say they didn't see me. Christmas. It's always ham, turkey, cake, door to door. Door to door.
You prefer to do the door to door thing?
I just love it. I'm not going to change it. Okay? I'm not going to change it.
Well, congratulations to you on the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
And nationally and in your communities. We salute you on this Women's Day. I'll give you the last line. What do you say to women everywhere in this Bahamas?
Women everywhere. While we're celebrating International Women's Day, find just one woman that you can encourage. Just one. One that you know needs help. One, either they're single and they're struggling. Find them. Locate them. Just help that one. Do some good deed for one woman. And even if it's a married woman and she's living in a precarious position, meaning either she's been abused or, you know, going through divorce, somebody who needs a smile, find that woman.
There you go. The Honorable Lisa Ramming, thank you. A pleasure talking to you tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
Stay with us. We're going to talk more about Women's Week and Women's Day, Women's Month. You know, the guys in the control room tell me, say, we hope you go all out like this for Father's Day. And we have to make sure we do the same thing for Men's Day, that it is. Stay with us. We'll be back on the rundown right after this. Stay close.
Fashion was something that I've always loved. I always, as a child, loved to see women just impeccably dressed. But my thing was drawing the looks and mixing colors, and fashion was in my blood. I put my personality into my passion. Well, the Fabric of Hope was inspired by my father. My father had cancer, and I would go with him to treatments and seeing everybody just look despondent and dreary. And I was like, wow, like God, like, I'm only a fashion designer. Like, what can I do to assist these people? I know God had me to create it to inspire persons with cancer or any illness that there's hope. It's been in my heart for a couple of days to speak to the older women who may feel that I'm 40, what can I do? I'm 50, what can I do? And that's when the fire in us kicks in. So take that idea that God has given you and put it to use. This is where it all begins.
Empowered women empower women.
The Hidden Disabilities Sunflower is a globally recognized symbol for persons with invisible disabilities.
The Sunflower lanyard made our journey less stressful, smoother, and more inclusive.
REACH is proud to support the Hidden Sunflower Scheme, which makes the invisible visible. So far, the Nassau Airport Authority and the Nassau Cruise Port are Sunflower certified.
So if you see someone with a sunflower lanyard, always remember to be patient and ask if they need some help. Please be kind and always remember to show respect.
We wish to encourage more hotel operators with amenities such as water parks, restaurants, cinemas, government offices to join this initiative, making the Bahamas a more sunflower-friendly country.
Please feel free to reach out to the REACH office at 328-4123, or you can reach out to the National Commissions for Persons with Disabilities at 396-8700.
Welcome back to The Rundown. Tonight we're celebrating women. My guests are doing it in a different way and are doing it a different kind of style. And joining me are two amazing women, Candice Weech and Rosemary Pina, Pastor Rosemary Pina. And we want to talk about this whole event in commemoration of International Women's Day. There'll be a Women's Walk 25. It's called In Faith, Hope, and Love. And it's being sponsored by Fifth Design Media, and it's a call, that's what I like about it. It's a call to action. So it ain't just going on a walk to try to lose some weight. It's a call to action. And I want to talk to these ladies. Thank you so much for being on The Rundown. Great to have both of you.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
So normally we hear walks, it's like, okay, fun run walk kind of thing. But this one, I like what you say, it's a call to action. Tell us all about it.
Women Walk is a clarion call for the country. You know what's happening in our country with our girls and women. And the Lord literally said, gather in prayer. So this isn't a fun run, walk, bite, skate, what I'm used to. He said, gather them in prayer. And it's a heart cry after what we would have seen happen with Adrian Moxie and Miss Carey and what happened to Latasha Roll. And he said, gather the women in prayer and the men that love us, because it's time for our hearts to become more sensitized to the needs of our community. Women have power and strength, but they also get weak, and they need to know that there are people that love them and support them. And so Women Walk is the clarion call for us to all come together for the country that we love, to pray and to celebrate our strength, and to say to women that are in domestic violence or suffering under the hands of abuse, or families of murder victims, we're here for you, we're gonna pray for you, and we're gonna take our nation back to prayer and tell you that you're not alone.
I'm excited to hear this because in news we hear about so many advocacy groups and people talking about women's rights and talking about the whole marital rape discussion and what women are going through. And I'm sitting there thinking, at any point we're going to hear about the spiritual healing that's needed. At any point are we going to hear about the real resolution, no matter how much counseling you go to, no matter how much therapy you go to, there has to be a spiritual intervention. And we for a nation that we call ourselves Christian nations, we dance around it. We try to be so politically correct, but we never address the issue. A lot of these battles are spiritual battles that need to be addressed. Talk about that, Pastor.
Well, you know, even with prayer, I think we underestimate the power of prayer. Everything that we see was formed by God speaking in His authority. Words created the worlds. And so prayer is not just the last thing that we do when we've tried everything else. A lot of times we say that, like, well, the only thing I have to do now is just pray. That's all I could do is pray. No, that should be the beginning. That should be the start. And what we're saying is, at the end of the day, we have a mandate as a people and as believers. In this instance, we're dealing with women and breaking the silence around sexual molestation and gender-based violence and all of that, but also heeding the mandate. Jeremiah told the people, pray for the peace of the city, which I sent you into as captives. For as the city prospers, so will you prosper. And my thing is, if the Lord sent captives to pray for their city, how much more do we have to take that mandate to cry out to the Lord on behalf of the city, and also to be in touch, because a lot of times we're moving throughout life, we are not mindful of what our neighbors are going through and what the heart of the city is crying out for. So for us, prayer is the first thing that we need to do.
What part of it does it become the breaking of cycles? Because a lot of times we hear people struggle with issues, and then you talk to people and say, well, you know, a lot of these things are generational. If you went through it when you were a child, or if you saw it when you were a teenager, you end up repeating it, even though sometimes you try to stray away from it, because it's generational. What does that really mean?
Well, generational means that we are under the weight of our parents' decisions. It's called iniquity, generational iniquity. Generational iniquity is the access point by which demonic spirits come into your life to produce the same cycle. And a lot of times when you've seen it in the generation before you, you kind of resolve that it's going to happen to you, and there's a silence with it, and almost a coping with it, and a, you know, this is just the way that it is. And you see that in a lot of different things, but even with this, there's not one person that in this nation hasn't been affected, even if not directly, by this issue of sexual abuse. There's a lot of women that are suffering in silence. Why are they suffering in silence? Because it happened to my mom, or it happened to my auntie, because I don't think anybody is gonna hear me, or I don't think anybody cares enough for me to speak up. And because I don't have the power to break this thing. And what we're saying is, no, we can't look away from it. We cannot accept it. We have sisters, we have daughters, we have a new generation that is coming up, and we have to say to them, it's not okay. It's time for us to say, let's talk about it, let's pray about it, let's break the cycle, and let's create a different legacy for the next generation that's coming.
Candace, who should come out and attend this?
Everybody, Clint. Everyone, women, children, the men that love us. This is for the nation. It's for everyone to come out and say, you know what, we value the contributions that women make, and we see their struggle, and we're going to walk in solidarity. We're going to walk to celebrate them, and we're going to walk to say we have compassion for what you're feeling, what you're experiencing. This is a prayer walk I believe is going to be very impactful and inspiring. We have an opening ceremony. We have our walk at Clifford Park. We're going all the way down Bay Street. And at every point, we have 9 prayer stops. And we're praying for specific areas of need within our women, within our men, and within our children, praying for our law enforcement. This is for everybody. And then when we come back, we have a ceremony with some call to action. So it's not just about a walk and you hear some Christian music and you clap. No, when you come back, there's some call to actions for how to start a neighborhood watch again in your community. Because crime has risen, how to form a neighborhood watch, you know? Someone from the domestic violence unit is going to talk about how to protect yourself if you're in a situation you don't feel like you can get out of. We are here to say, we're here to help you get out. So Women Walk is a combination for everybody to say, we love this country, we don't like the direction it's headed, we're going to pray together, we're going to support one another, and we're going to be our sister's keeper. Because at the end of the day, we should be our brothers and sisters' keeper. And we feel like with the Latasha Rose incident, it made me say, wow, are we our sister's keeper? You know, I mean, I put myself in that position. I would have been scared to death to do something, but you can't just pick up your phone, you know? And so you got to get back to the heart of man. And I do believe, Clint, in reform. We need to reform our legal system to have better protections for our women and children. But God said the reform starts in the heart of man. And that's what Women Walk is about, coming together, going before God and saying, have mercy on us.
Sure enough, sure enough. I wanted to put up the flyer again because I wanted you to give information. I do see there is a scan code. Go ahead and tell them what that scan code is for and why they need to go. They can put up and go ahead and scan it. Go tell them what that scan code is about.
Well, the scan code is for our Eventbrite app, just so that we could track the numbers. But Clint, hundreds of people coming out to this. The response from Civic, from the church groups, from the various sororities, fraternities, they're coming. So if you can't get on the app, it's okay at this point. We're preparing for you. It's open to everybody. We assemble at 8:30. You can wear your purple or your white in celebration of International Women's Day and come out. We're gonna start our procession at 9 o'clock and we're gonna hit the streets, we're gonna celebrate, we're gonna pray, we're gonna dance, and let's just see what God wants to do. But we're gonna take our city back. We cannot accept the crime, we cannot accept the way that the country is headed, and this is our land that we love. So why not come out?
Listen, I believe this is an important aspect of it. We'll talk more and close about it right after the break. Stay with us. We'll come back and wrap up right after this. Stay close.
The internet isn't just for surfing. There's a sea of shoppers buying online, and you can connect with them on Tingsy. Tingsy is the SBDC's online storefront built for